Well, I've recently published a book. It's called Becoming the Ocean, and it's a book about the River Dart, ostensibly about the River Dart, but actually it's about a lot more than the river as well. It's a sort of part memoir, part history. It also talks a lot about wildlife, a bit about politics, because our rivers have become political. And it's the story of a river, which then is the story of all our rivers, really. And beyond that, our relationship with nature and what's happened to that. I grew up locally in Paignton, and so I knew the river quite well from when I was young. And so I've had a long relationship with it over many decades. I'm happiest on the river, I would say. I love canoeing, and that has built the relationship over many years. And then what triggered this really was I was getting more and more interested in what was happening to the river. Our rivers have become big national news, as people probably are aware. And then I read a report which said that only 58 salmon had been recorded in the River Dart over 12 months, which I thought that can't be right, because when I was young it would have been thousands. So I started looking into it more, and it did prove to be correct. And that led me on a sort of journey to find out what had happened to the river. And then I sort of ended up following a pilgrimage from the origins of the river high up on Dartmoor in the peatlands, all the way down to Dartmouth and the ocean. And on that pilgrimage I met lots of people, spoke to them, found out a lot about the history of the river and the problems that it's facing. I found it was the story intimately connected to what we were doing here at Sharpham. So Sharpham's mission is to connect people to nature, and I think that is what underpins a lot of the problems and challenges, that relationship has changed and broken down, and that's why we've ended up with, our rivers in not a great condition and polluted. So I explore that in the book, and I've tried to make it as accessible as I can, and I've also tried to include a sort of poetic side so that it's not too dry and academic. I think in some ways it's a travel book. I want people to use it to go out and explore with and find out for themselves. When I was young, I was quite enamoured of books and writers such as Bruce Chatwin, who is if you like, a travel writer. But his books weren't about sort of tourism. They're about discovery, sort of going on a quest, finding yourself in your travels, sort of thing. And that's the side of my book, I think. It's about exploring our own relationship with the river and what that means to us, and what wild places mean to us. We haven't got a huge amount of wilderness left, certainly in the UK. We're very nature depleted, but there are still elements of that you can rediscover, particularly high up on Dartmoor to some extent. And so I wanted to capture that and the effects of that, and that links strongly back to what we're doing at Sharpham, really. Giving people space to explore their connections with the natural world and what it might mean to them.